that's where my PhD came out of. I thought, how can we make that easier, better, and more of an enabler to say, how do we as humans get that system to work for us? Not how do we fit into it, because that's the wrong way around. It needs to be designed for our use. And he said, cool, you write me an undergrad and a postgrad program and we'll see how we do. So I wrote both and they put them into their schedule next term. And I got 60 students on the masters and 150 on the undergrad. So it became a thing.
Kia ora and welcome to What's Up AIC Women's Edition. Today, I'm deeply honored to be sitting down with Dr. Lorraine Skelton, a principal lecturer at AIC, a researcher, a mentor, and a highly respected voice in technology, leadership, academia, and the industry. Welcome, Lorraine. It's an honor to have you here today.
It's lovely to be here.
What a pleasure. Let's start with the research. Your paper is taking you to Sweden on June. What is it about? What does this recognition mean for you at this stage of your journey, and how do you see yourself, and what is it about?
It's an interesting question. It's not that big a milestone for me. The group that's running the conference in Sweden is called the University Industry Innovation Network, and I've been working with them since 2011. This will actually be the fourth time that I go to the conference, and I have a lot of collaborators in that conference that I work with. The last time I went, which was 2 years ago now, 16 of us got together and produced a book.
I believe it's in Copenhagen.
That one was, yes, in Copenhagen. Yeah. And the 16 of us wrote a book called From Purpose to Impact,
right,
looking at how academic research can get into business and into wider policy so that we actually create an impact in our work. So less of a milestone and more of an ongoing journey, which we know we need to keep developing in order to actually get the things that we talk about in universities out into a wider environment.
Yeah, right. And this just so happens to coming out of your moon boots this summer holiday, right?
That in its own right was an interesting journey, because you're right, over summer I planned to go to an awful lot of walking with my girlfriends, and I ended up trying to break my foot instead in a gardening incident. And while sat down, I started thinking about my research this year and what I could add to it.
Right.
I think that's something that academics can do that isn't as easy to do in industry. You can start thinking about the implications of what you're doing and how it affects others. And so the paper that I've written this year isn't a traditional paper for me. It looks around how we have an impact, and unfortunately at this stage, how AI is changing that impact on the planet and actually making us less thoughtful in the things that we do.
That's cool.
And less understanding of our own capabilities. So it's still working in the same space. It's still looking at how we collaborate, but it's how we need to develop our own collaboration styles rather than depending on AI to do it for us.
If I'm correct, then the paper is called When AI Accelerates What We Already Get Wrong, Leadership Capability in University and Industry Collaboration. Is that the one?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I reckon that's where your PhD sits at as well.
It started there. So the group that I'm actually going to do the conference with was a group I looked at when I was a research manager. I used to work at Auckland University as one of their senior research managers. And the more I got used to the research that they were doing, the more I got embedded into what they were doing, I started to realize how little of that actually gets out of the universities. If you're really lucky, only up to 6 people will read a paper that you've written. That's nothing. Then it gets shelved in the library and it never comes up again. And then I started looking at the impacts that we actually have in industry. And only 6% of industry does any work with universities. And that's in New Zealand. If you look globally, it's actually not much better. So we've got all this knowledge that's going nowhere. And that's where my PhD came out of. I thought, how can we make that easier, better? The processes need to be better understood, better defined. And yeah, that was the beginning of my journey.
That's a beautiful start. And a never-ending journey of research and innovation, right?
And that's the other thing, to recognize that whilst it's only 6% now, we've actually never been any better. If you go back in history to the early 2000s, we weren't any better then. So there's been this constant trickle of information coming out of universities and actually making an impact. That needs to move faster, in my opinion. And that's what this whole group is really discussing on a global stage of how can we get knowledge out of institutes and into practice.
Good. Thank you so much. What an incredible milestone, a journey to remember, right? Well, I remember your journey spans across technology and research, construction, governance, teaching, and of course, there is not a lot that you haven't really touched base upon in your lifetime. You've lived so many lives in one life itself, which is an incredible thing to look at and be inspired from. What has been the common thread that actually connects all of these together, and what keeps you going so far? Can you give us a little detour of your journey since you arrived here back in I don't remember.
1996 I landed in New Zealand. But having said that, if I look at my whole journey across the whole of my life, it's been the same in each case. My dad was an engineer, and I love to see how things fit together from an engineering stance. So for me, construction and technology are similar. They're both engineering, they both have things put together. But the biggest influence across that is not how engineering works, but how it enables people to live better and do better jobs. And that's really where my whole stream of research and work has been. If it's not accessible, if it doesn't enable you to do what you do, it shouldn't be there. It's pointless. So every time I look at technology, I say, how can this better what we do? How can this help people? How can it enable us to live a better life? So I'm less a techie, a traditional techie who loves building stuff. I'm more of an enabler to say, how do we as humans get that system to work for us? Not how do we fit into it, because that's the wrong way around. It needs to be designed for our use. And that's kind of where my sweet spot is. And that comes across the built environment, the technology environment, how we govern our businesses. It's so as much as there's a lot of it, the stream has been the same all the way through, the same ideas.
Cool. No wonder you bring in so much wisdom and light to every room you walk into. And thank you for existing among us the way you do, Lorraine. I'm deeply privileged to be able to share this space and journey with you. And you must have guided a lot of students and upcoming professionals in your journey so far. So for students and emerging professionals listening to this today, what capabilities do you think matter the most to start building early, regardless of what they choose to work on in future? So what do you think are these capabilities?
For me, probably one of the biggest things is the systems understanding. How do the systems we work in work for us? When we're early in a career, we go and get a job. And in that job, we want to fit into whatever that role thinks we should be doing. Right. So we don't actually question it. We don't say, is this good to work this way? Is this system working for me? And it's only when you get confident in your career that you kind of turn it around and go, does this system actually work? So it would be great if students could question that earlier instead of just going in and accepting what's there and saying, yeah, I know that this exists now, but how can we improve it to make it better for the workers, to make it better for our customers, and not just say, that's the system, it can't move. Actually, they're quite agile now, they can move. So how do we make them better for us?
The critical thinking factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep working on that. I remember your everyday lecture, right? Every other day you mentioned the critical thinking. Where is it? So yeah, that's exactly where this message should at.
It's not just the what, because the what is easy.
Yeah.
It's the why.
Right.
Why do we do it this way? And how can we improve upon it?
And keeping the whys close to us, it's always a good thing to do, right? To keep growing if we want to. And another important part of your story is leadership in spaces that haven't always been inclusive. Like, I know how you've been a very natural carrier when it comes to your commitment towards advocating for women, and not just formally, but when you talk about your circle, your friends, your group of friends, and your networks, your communities, and the importance of lifting one another up as you go on in this journey, even advocating for pay gaps and all of that. When we had a conversation earlier about, you shared something about women in STEM, the science, technology, education, and management are on the increase, but not in technology. Can you share that a little bit once more for What's Up AIC audience? Because that's one of the critical factors that I think the audience should be aware of, and for where the technology is headed towards for students like us, for listeners like us.
And I think, yeah, it's an interesting question. When I started in technology, which you're right, was last century, which sounds like a long time ago,
right?
About 30 years ago, I recognized very quickly that I was a minority, being female. I went through architecture school in England, and there were 3 females in my class. I joined the Project Management Institute not long later, and there were 4% females in the Project Management Institute. And I couldn't understand why. So I started thinking about how does this work? And it's less about the actual topics, because we're actually quite good at these things. Women can do equally as well when it comes to engineering topics, but it's more about the systems that we fit into. So if you look across that last 30 years, nothing's actually changed. In STEM, the physical sciences and the mathematical sciences have always had about 30% women in them. But if you look at engineering and technology, it's less.
Oh.
It's 20% and it's working downhill. It's actually getting smaller by the year, which is not good. But coming back to how they're designed, systems of work are designed for men. They're designed around men's schedule of 9 to 5. They're designed around men having longevity of work and no breaks in between to look after kids. So what's actually happened is while technology has developed, our systems haven't developed.
Right.
The ways of working haven't developed. The biggest impact we've had over the last 30 years was COVID, which wasn't a good impact, but it kind of went, actually, you can work from home. It's okay to do online. But the world's flipping back into, no, we still want this traditional male way of working. So the systems don't work well for women, and they don't work well for disabled people either. The reason I started looking at that is one of my cherubs has autism. And we know that after 30 hours a week, he is done, he is spent. But can he be very productive during those 30 hours? Absolutely, because he's hyper-focused. He can probably do more in 30 hours than I can do in 40. But he can't fit into a traditional way of working. So those ways of working are hard work for him. And it's that really that I'm looking at, how do we enable half the planet, females, and all those disadvantaged people to work in the system? Well, we don't, because it doesn't work for them. We need to redesign it.
Well, we have a special term now, specially advantaged. I mean, blessed, right?
Absolutely.
Perfectly beautiful. And that's a kind of voice that we require on spaces where you are at right now, that really enables learners and enthusiasts like us, like young people on campus who are aiming for something in future and trying to grow in this space. That's really inspiring and motivating enough for all of us to keep working, and there still is a window somewhere which will open up for a brighter tomorrow. Thank you so much for all of that, Lorraine. No wonder you're a part of so many communities, like the groups, Women in Tech Women in this Institute of Directors in New Zealand Women's Group, and National Association of Women in Construction New Zealand. No wonder you're a project manager for life and an architect. And that's what I recall of you when I imagine Lorraine, and I think of all these professions, all these hats you wear every day. So that's certainly how leadership has been shaped in your journey as well, right? Anyway, this is a male-dominated space, and that's not something that we can easily deny or decline, no matter how much we voice for it, no matter how many Women's Day we celebrate each year. This is still going to be a story to talk about, because this is not ending anytime soon, and this has been forever, right? Cool. Another thing that really stands out in your work is that it seems to go beyond systems and strategy that we discuss in class every day. Is that your interest in technology isn't just technical, it's also it connects accessibility, care, and taking systems, making them work better for people from a human aspect. Like you've already always have had this human touch in whatever you work for. You carry your soul to that. Be it working for big corporations or smaller organizations, or also one of your pieces in Rere Afio, the journal here on campus, which you have now started working as editor-in-chief. So can you tell a little bit about that part of your life?
That's also been an interesting part of the journey. New Zealand has shaped me in a way I never expected,
right?
Which has been really nice. It's shaped me in two directions that I didn't expect. The Maori philosophies and practices have slowed me down considerably. To begin with, I tried my hardest to get away from that. But actually, in hindsight, the care and attention they don't just take to their work, but the care and attention they think about in the past, what we've done, what worked, what didn't work, is really, really good practice. And the mentoring they do of each other as well. I've had some wonderful mentors since I got to New Zealand, both male and female. But just the practices that become embedded into everyday life. And there's, of course, their primary goal, what's the most important thing in the planet? The people. I absolutely agree. And between that and getting more and more involved in the disability sector, for me, it has to work. The old technology has to work for people. If it doesn't, I don't see a point in it being there.
Right.
And I'm not, unfortunately, much of a capitalist, which doesn't help when you think about profit.
And that also reminds me of earlier when you were talking about being the only women in class, like a very less amount of women in class, and someone voicing for human stuff, be it like working towards voice recognition software and tertiary education, the piece that I read in your journal, and be it for fundraising events for Special Olympics, and also talking about uplifting women as you go and grow. That's really wonderful, and that's really inspirational enough for people like us, for somebody like me. Yeah, right. So you might not be aware of the fact that how much you tend to inspire people along this journey. But yeah, today on What's Up AIC, I'd like to specifically mention this to you, that you are really inspirational every single day. Right, Lorraine, and the power you hold as a lecturer, as a woman in leadership is really beautiful. And thank you so much for doing all of that. So what would you like your students to, stay? What would you like that's something that would stay with your students when they leave the classrooms after, studies or all of that?
I think one of the things we forget to do is exactly that. We forget to slow down. We forget to connect. One brain alone is not enough to solve big problems, and the only way to do that is to get lots of people together to connect, and remember that you're not doing life alone.
Not doing life alone.
Life should be shared, because that's the best way to move forward, not just from your own sanity in the future, but also from the collaboration of bringing ideas together. That's the way we can solve the bigger issues on the world. So for me, collaboration, communication, community are probably the three most important things I can think of for them to learn.
Correct. Collaboration, community,
and
communication. Three of those key ideas, key messages, key stories, key learnings to take away every single day, right? Thank you so much, Lorraine. So from helping New Zealand implement the first SAP systems in banking to contributing in major transformation across industry and academia and all of that, you've come a long, long way, Lorraine. Can you walk us a little bit through your journey, like how you started once you boarded on that airplane? Because I remember you mentioning that the day you landed in New Zealand is the day you started working, because you're originally from England. So a little, walk through your journey from that side of your journey.
Yeah, I think that's one of the other themes in my life. I'm a planner,
right?
And I don't do anything accidentally. So while in England, we just finished our MBA, myself and my husband. We'd done the masters, and we said it's time to go work abroad. We chose New Zealand because it was easier to come to, from a language perspective more than anything else, because neither one of us are any good at languages. And before coming here, we surveyed the organizations that are here. We looked at people we wanted to speak to inside those organizations and sent what was then email, because LinkedIn wasn't really a thing at that stage.
All right.
And I sent emails to 15 different directors, technical directors, and said, we're looking to come to New Zealand. I'm a project manager, and I want to know about your industry and what kind of work there is should we decide to change. I got more than half of those saying yes. So when we landed as a holiday, we went and had those interviews. By the third interview, what is now the National Bank, the technical director said, we're putting in an SAP system. I didn't even know what SAP was at that stage.
Oh yeah, I remember you inviting people from all the way from Germany to translate that script, right?
Well, that's what he didn't tell us at the time. He didn't say, well, by the way, it's the first one we've ever done in New Zealand, and SAP isn't a thing here yet. So I, in my typical Kiwi fashion, which I didn't even know was a thing at that stage, I said, I'll give it a go. And he said, cool, go home, pack up, come back, you can start when you land. And they actually waited for 3 months for me, which was really nice. And you're right, I landed, and the next day I started work. And at that stage, they didn't tell me that the SAP base code was written in German. So there was nobody in New Zealand that could read the base code of the program. So a whole bunch of Germans came across. We got a bunch of Ernst Young consultants from America who had put in 1 or 2 systems. And then myself and the bank, and we figured it out in 6 months.
Beautiful.
Which was not just a fast implementation, but we went live on a day when the central business district shut down. We had a huge power outage on the go live day.
Mm.
And we didn't see the bank sent us a message to say, we're good, you don't have to go live today. But again, problem solvers. We picked up our PCs, we got down the stairs because the lift shafts weren't working, got in the cars, went up to our disaster recovery site and went live on the day. So that was the first introduction into New Zealand, and we had an absolute ball doing it. And I had another couple of projects after that before Deloitte came and kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, oh, I need help, come my way. And I spent the next 4 or 5 years working as a troubleshooter for Deloitte before starting a family. So the family was kind of the change in my career into academia. I never expected to be an academic. As far as I was concerned, I was a consultant for life.
That was supposed to be my second question, actually, a follow-up question. How did you end up in academia? Like, what led you to AIC? I mean, you did all the work in industry, and you've been a techie for life, and you've been working for all of this technological stuff. And how come you landed in academia? And how does it serve you every day? Do you like enjoying it? Do you love coming back to work every single day? How is it for you?
I do love it now, but I mean, at the time, again, thinking forward, when I left consultancy, I left to have children, and I wanted a role that would still keep my brain working, and I could still be a family person as well, because that's a very important side of my life. And I thought about project management, and had that been a huge influence on me so far, and went up to Massey University and kind of knocked on the head of department's door. You don't teach project management, why not? And he said, there's no call for it. And I went, I don't agree. Have you seen how many people there are in Project Management Institute globally? And it's growing, it's getting bigger annually. And his name was John. And he said, cool, you write me an undergrad and a postgrad program, and we'll see how they do. So I wrote both, and they put them into their schedule next term. And I got 60 students on the masters and 150 on the undergrad. So it became a thing. And I spent the next I spent the next 11 years at Massey.
No wonder, it's one teaching. Of the highest demanded subjects even this day and date, and I don't know how many years ahead of us is it still going to be the leading subjects there, right? Project management.
Absolutely. It's how we extend our work. There's operational work, which is ongoing, and you do the same thing over and over again. I'm not good at that because I get bored once I've done something once. I want to do the next thing. So project work suits my mindset as well. And halfway through that, my lovely mentor, who I still work with now, the lovely Tim Bentley, who's a professor out in Queensland, said, when your children get to school, you need to start your PhD. And I kind of went, you sure? Sure about that? But he literally knocked on my door after my little girl got to school and said, PhD time. Okay, Tim, I'll do my PhD now. And he followed me through 3 different institutes. He kept moving institutes, but he never let go. And he's been one of my favorite mentors all the way through. And Amazing. We still work now together.
Finding the right guru is also one of the fortunes not everybody is blessed with. So, if you are once blessed with this guru, this instructor, this mentor for life, then make sure you never let go of that. Like, this blessing, this wisdom will take you all the way through, all the way across life, and it's going to only work for better, right? Very much. It's really inspirational. And I see that light in you wherever you go, and no wonder you are the best out of so many women out there. Maybe.
Well, there's lots of nice women out there. It's just, but that's the thing, once you get a mentor, don't let go, unless they actually get rid of you. But very rarely, if you've got the right mindset, and they meet your mindset, there's no reason that you can't do life together as well. So he is a constant researcher now with me, and my secondary also on the PhD, lovely man called David Brown. I also still research with him. We did an Academy of Management paper last year together, and that got accepted. So working with people that have the same mindset is a really nice way to go.
The connection, the bond, right? When it comes, I had this question in my mind earlier, like, when you say you research together, how does it work? Like, do you split works for 2 people, or how do you research together? What kind of work does it require?
It depends on who comes up with the idea and how you frame that. I mean, some ideas naturally fall into your field of inquiry and some don't. But because I know what their fields of inquiry are, I will often look at my research through their lens as well, especially when both of these lovely men are human resource lecturers as well. So they see the coming together that I see of technology and HR, and how they meld and how they should be complementary rather than us trying to fit into a system that doesn't work. So they have the
The
same mindset.
compatibility.
Yeah, very much.
That's
Much.
wonderful.
Really
Thank you
privileged
so
to
much
work
for
with them.
sharing all of that, Lorraine. You raised 3 beautifully brilliant children, and you've come a long, long way when it comes to upskilling yourself and growing yourself. You recently even undertook this cyber forensics course, and you're constantly working on yourself. So that's really motivating and inspiring for somebody like me. And I have people like you around me who's been doing all of this stuff that allows me to dare to dream, because there's still a possibility. You see, thank you so much for all that you do every single day, Lorraine. That's really a message from my heart, and thank you for coming to What's Up AIC today. And I'm really glad and fortunate that I get to share this space with you. Thank you, Lorraine.
You're more than welcome.
And if you enjoyed today's Career Road, make sure you subscribe and give us a thumbs up, and let us know who you want to watch next on What's Up AIC. And this is your voice, Sangya, signing out for today. Until then, kakite ano. See you soon.